Welcome everyone. My name is Dinesh. I am the program coordinator for Boost and your host this evening. Before we start to get right into the action, I would like to first thank everyone here for attending. We know your time is valuable and we appreciate it. So what we're going to do today is going to explain what Boost is. Boost is a virtual incubator and accelerator program that will encompass a virtual community of strategic partners, startups, entrepreneurs, and business-minded individuals working together to transform the entrepreneurship landscape even further. Part of the overall feature of this series is events or virtual events, such as BoostX, which will focus on a themed topic for various entrepreneurs from different backgrounds or sectors. The theme for today, with the first series, of course, is the impact of a virtual incubator and accelerator program onto the entrepreneurial world. This being Productivity Awareness Week in St. Lucia, we found it fitting to discuss also the impacts of the entrepreneurial landscape post-COVID. 2020 has changed the entrepreneurship landscape quite a bit. We've had COVID, which has created lockdowns around the world. We've seen an economic situation where large and small companies have laid off people and lost jobs. And we've seen the emergence of the first-time entrepreneur. In fact, it's the first time in a few decades it's the highest increase of entrepreneurs in society. A typical entrepreneur has had to evolve the way business is done. 2020 also saw the introduction of social distancing. It saw the Black Lives Movement come back to life. We saw the global policies changes in the business world. We saw direct economic changes. These massive shifts with the focus of a virtual new normal is what we will be discussing today at BoostX. With all that said, and that's a mouthful, here's the panel for today. So first, to the bottom right of me, we have our very special guest from the US Virgin Islands, Ms. Shanell Petersen, who serves as the Managing Director and Marketing and Vision for 2040 for the Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority. Petersen supervises 3 employees tasked with the internal and external marketing, communications, and public relations efforts for an agency and its 4 units. Prior to joining the USVIEDA, Petersen ran for her own business, where she found her love for service and commitment to improving the quality of life for all members of our community. With over 10 years of marketing and tactical experience in the private sector, Petersen returned to the territory of US Virgin Islands and joined the USVIEDA in June of 2018. Ms. Petersen, welcome, and thank you for spending the time here with us.
Thank you so much for having me today, Mr. Deswani.
So we also have James Adjodha, a photographer and entrepreneur who specializes in events. His love for small businesses and startups has encouraged him to use his social platforms to help boost young local talents. He also enjoys exploring his island of St. Lucia, dancing, playing football, and is proficient in sign language. James is also the president of the Association of Professional Photographers of St. Lucia and is an OECS SDM ambassador. James, welcome to the forum.
Thanks very much. It's my pleasure to be here, and I look forward to this discussion.
Okay, and last but not least, we have Mr. Mathurin, who is currently a commercial manager at Cable and Wires Communications, or better known for most people as Flow. He's also the director of Freedom Fund Inc., a property development company, the vice president of the Real Estate Association, and has a co-founder of the St. Lucian tech startup, Get It. Anselm is also well known as a Technopreneur, founding a few companies of his own. Welcome, Anselm. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you, panelists, for bringing in viewers.
Okay, the agenda for today is we'll be spending 25 minutes on this panel discussion for a few questions related to the topic, and we'll have a 10-minute Q&A session. The idea is to encourage a thought and open conversation from the attendees today. If you have any questions in the chat room, please ask them towards your right, and you can label a question by clicking the circle next to the text, and you will see a queue appear. Someone will answer your question right away. We also will have a 10-minute Q&A after the question. Also, feel free to answer some of our polls that'll be popping up during the discussion. So is everybody ready to get into the discussion today?
Sure.
So going straight to question 1, which is a 2-part question. So the first part is, how has the change in the entrepreneurial world I mentioned earlier impacted your business or your market? And the second part to that question is, how have you chosen to adapt? So first, we're going to start with Mr. Mathurin.
Thank you, Dinesh. I guess I have the challenge of two different sectors, property development and I guess service and technology. For property development, by far, the biggest challenge is certification and COVID protocols. In my property portfolio, I specifically chose to do 75% short-term using the Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO, all of the online platforms, primarily because it was more profitable. As well, you don't have tenants staying in your property for a long period of time because it's more likely to get to incur damage to your property. So you have fast turnover of guests, higher return. Now, because we don't know how long we'll have the travel restrictions and that market opened, I converted all of the 75% to long-term rentals from local professionals. So that's one. As it relates to the technology business, everything is remote now, absolute remote. And the biggest challenge is payment. For a long time, even before the pandemic, we wanted to provide employment for a number of people who wanted to have an extra income. And so we launched the Get It platform. So basically anything you want in St. Lucia, hopefully the Caribbean soon, you can get on the platform. All services from plumbing, home repairs, to babysitting, to delivery, whatever it is, whatever skill that you have and you think you want to provide a service, the platform connects clients with service providers. And we just take a small fee, not even a commission. Right now, we've been in beta testing for about 3 months. We want to launch next month. But by far, the biggest challenge is going to be payment. And James, as a local business, would know the challenge we've had in getting online payments. But I can say, after 6 months, we finally were able to work with a local bank that now allows you to accept payments, and the customers and service providers, can get paid within 2 to 3 days, as opposed to PayPal where it's 28 days, as opposed to Stripe and other platforms. And the fee is very reasonable. It's 4%, and you can negotiate maybe to get a little lower. But by far, because of the lack of source markets for property and payment, those two are the biggest challenges, and that's the biggest change we've had to make.
All right, thank you. James, same question. How has the impact of 2020 affected your business or your sector, and what have you done to improve it?
Well, we were greatly affected because as photographers, our main income was really events, whether it's parties, whether it's large festivals, events, not just in St. Lucia, also whether it's in a different island or different countries, even as far as Notting Hill. So with all of these festivals being cancelled, that is a direct effect on our industry. Also, with regards to weddings, at the start of the COVID situation, that you weren't allowed to have a certain amount of people. Weddings on a whole really were non-existent. So every single booking that we had for a wedding was cancelled for 2020 or postponed until 2021. So you can just imagine the type of impact that has on small businesses. And it's not only myself, it's I can talk for all of the photographers in our association that all of us have had to suffer in that regard. So in terms of being able to adapt, because even with regards to our corporate clients as well, they were looking to cut back, they weren't looking to spend, their marketing budgets have been slashed. So it has been a really tough time. So in terms of us being able to adapt, at Wavemaker, what we were able to do is going to streaming. So we were able, with the equipment that we have, we were able to adapt to doing whether it's teleconferences for certain companies, hosting it for them. Funny enough, we even had to go into funerals a lot more. And because of the borders being closed and the limits as well, with persons being allowed into a church or wherever it may be, we actually had to start doing streaming. So in some cases where 10 persons alone or 20 persons alone were allowed into a place, we would be doing the streaming for the family, sometimes not even just overseas, but even right here in St. Lucia, because they couldn't come down to get that closure of being with their loved ones during that tough time. So we've had to adapt. And again, it has been a very challenging time, but it just goes to show that sometimes you can just sit back and be like, oh, well, let me just wait and let me see what the government can do for me, or let me see. Like sometimes you just have to think outside of the box, see what's needed. And that's a good thing about entrepreneurship sometimes. Like you can make your own path. So we didn't want to look for handouts or just wait around. We tried to see what could we do, as well as encourage the other photographers. Even a lot of us have ventured into more social media marketing as well, managing pages and so on for different companies, providing content. So especially because right now, a lot of the businesses, because they were before, they may have not had any type of social platform or been posting. So right now they have to do a lot more of that to get their business out there, so people know what their products are, if they're doing curbside pickup and so on and so forth. So it really has been a challenging time, but we have been able to adapt.
All right, thank you, James. Ms. Petersen, same question as well. How has COVID affected your business or your sector? And what have you done so far to combat that?
Thank you. So I feel like, I wear two hats. I work for the Economic Development Authority, so we're a semi-autonomous government agency, but I'm also an entrepreneur. So the first thing I recognize, especially when we're looking at the culture of small businesses and startups, is that convenience of being able to get in their car and drive to our office and get information. Well, since the onset of COVID, that was no longer a possibility. So the biggest challenge or impact was really giving or providing access to resources from the EDA standpoint. And that kind of ties hand in hand with my business as well, because though I had a business that sort of worked virtually, it wasn't exclusively virtual. So people also got comfortable with that ease of being able to come and see me or visit me and ask these questions relative to my services. But again, once that sort of ended, how I was able to ship was driving everything now through, online. Being more visible was also very important. So not only was I amping up visibility via weekly webinars and, pop-up content on social media, but that also meant, more airtime on the radio. So conducting more radio ads, radio interviews, things like that, connecting with podcasts, especially local podcasts for people that are interested in sharing stories about small businesses. That was also very important during this time. And so that's how we've been able to sort of shift the curve a little bit with the great impact that so many businesses have experienced, is by amping up our visibility in the community. And the same thing, when I'm sharing information about my business, I'm also looking at, as every other business is doing the same thing, how can I produce content that is succinct and it gets them to the end result, which is either A, buy my product, contacting me via phone, or contacting me via email. And so those are really the ways that we've been able to get through these times positively.
All right, thank you for that. Just a reminder that you can leave questions in the chat, and there are a few polls that are running. So if you go to your right side, you can choose polls, or you can go to chat as well. For my second question, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to start with you, Ms. Petersen. Has it impacted your customers or your people that you serve, and how has it affected them? And have they responded and tell you, well, it's harder to go to virtual because we live in the Caribbean, so we don't always have that access to internet as much as we have in the States or first world countries. So has that been an issue where we have an older generation that's not really into the tech world yet? And have you had that issue? Ms. Petersen, you can go first.
Thank you. Absolutely. I mean, not only are we not used to having, I should say, like consistent power or a strong internet connection, but we're also looking at a much older generation, a much older population. I want to say the average age in the Virgin Islands is somewhere in the 50s, which is very unique. And I feel like we're not the only island in the Caribbean where that's the makeup of the island. And so that's why it was very frustrating for our businesses that we serve. So many of our clients had challenges with the impact of COVID because they just weren't used to finding the information the ways that they had found it. And already so many of our agencies weren't even up to the standards of having a lot of information online. So we sort of were in a situation where we were playing catch up really quickly because we saw the importance to get information, provide resources, whether that was financing or it was, mentorship or really just technical assistance during this time. We really had to look inward and say, okay, this is a layout of our inventory. This is where we need to get to. How quickly can we get there? And I would say the greatest thing that has came out of COVID, at least across the government agencies, as well as private sector that assists businesses with financing, etc., is that we've really come together and we've really been able to utilize, similar platforms or share platforms to get information to our clients, to the business owners in the territory. And I would say that that's probably the biggest success, but still to this day, we still are overcoming the challenges because so many people are really they're frustrated. And not just that, but it's, I think, the balance of it all. So there you have trying to balance work from home from work. It's all convoluted. And so we're also finding that we have to be more patient as we're trying to service our clients because they are coming at us with that, a certain mentality of desperation, considering everything that they have experienced thus far. So those are the ways that we're trying to meet the needs despite the levels of frustrations that we're seeing now. And so I guess the last point I would make is really highlighting the successes. So finding those businesses that have been able to thrive, finding those businesses that have been able to adjust their business. So whether it's, the spa beauty place that now creates their own hand sanitizer, like we saw a couple businesses that started doing that, or even, the fabric stores that started making their own masks, and taking those examples and sharing those stories, placing them on billboards and things like that have really started to bring people to, more of a positive light despite what they're still experiencing today.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to do a quick question answer here from Edward Harris. He's asking, regarding the payment system available in the public. I think this question is for you, Mr. Mathurin. Can you answer that? You wanted more information on that payment system you're talking about? Get it?
Yeah, there are a number of banks currently providing the online payment platform. I will admit that the process is quite onerous. There is a lot of responsibility. The requirements are steep, but it's not impossible. You must, of course, organize your business plan. And I know Ed personally, I'm sure he has a business plan. But Bank of St. Lucia is my provider of choice. And we can talk offline by all means.
All right, so that answers two questions. So the bank that allows you to accept online payments is the Bank of St. Lucia, correct?
That's correct. But there are other providers from some of the other commercial banks. Okay.
So we're just going to go straight to you since you started to that same question. Have you had any issues with customers coming to you saying, I can't use a digital platform, or I can't get onto using an app, or certain things like that?
No, absolutely, Dinesh, 100%. And I think that we all recognize that there's a big piece of education that's required. locally. Other than the encouragement or the confidence to go through the app, download the app. Overall, people generally want to move forward, even with the fears. I take a lot of encouragement with people who use WhatsApp. So I'm also in telecoms, and in terms of penetration of data for smartphones, you see a number of people with smartphones, but less than 40% of them actually have data on their smartphones. But I was about 3 years ago. Now that percentage of data usage and penetration has increased significantly. My 72-year-old aunt uses WhatsApp, and if it's to talk to her son in Canada, she will download the app and will learn it. But in terms of the Get It app, available at getit.lc, specifically from the beta testers, we've gotten requests to use less text and more icons and images. So it's, instead of saying, okay, I want a plumber, it's almost like you need to have an icon that says, okay, plumber, press for plumber. And it gives a list of the plumbers and press for one. Nobody wants to type again. The beta version, you ask to describe your job. And the feedback we've gotten is that people don't really want to type. But we also recognize before we can even get you to post a job or to post something that you need, we must get you to search the Google Play Store or search the iOS Store. In fact, before that, you must have the Google Play app on your phone, and you must have you must know where the iOS Store app is. But there's a big role and big opportunity for education. I believe that as time goes by, perhaps the children, the younger people will force their parents to use it by adoption and by seeing the benefits of it. I think that one of the greatest opportunities that we have that we want to leverage is the ability to empower people by giving them an opportunity to earn money that they never had before. Being able to pay for a carpenter, pay for a tiler, pay for delivery service. Let's say you always go to work out in the north. You go in the app, you see what deliveries are needed. Pick up something in town by Blue Monkey, and while you're on your way, you drop it up there. So you don't necessarily need to have a delivery service per se. You may have a number of skills, and we're hoping that gives people empowerment, economic empowerment, the ability to use their skills for massage, for whatever skill that you have, and ultimately the customer will decide. The customer, by rating you afterwards, will decide how good you were. Now, I think before I close that point, it's important to know for those skills, there will be categories. So, for example, someone will have a professional certification if you're a masseuse, for example. So, in terms of your selection of people, you can choose based on that criteria. But by far, the biggest opportunity we believe is in the education of our people.
All right, thank you. So James, we know that you are an event photographer. Have you ever had a situation where a customer comes to you and says, I cannot access my photos online, or in post-COVID, an older couple that has some issues getting to it? So James, your mic is muted.
Yeah. What we've done really from day one is everything from our invoicing, estimates, our galleries, everything has always been online. So we tend to normally from the get-go let our customers know that's how your stuff will be delivered to you. So of course, sometimes, let's say there's a link to the website and they may have a little problem, we can still guide them through it. So that hasn't really been the issue per se. Even with regards to, receiving their invoices, everything is all digital in how we carry out our business. The issue, of course, as Anselm has alluded to, is the e-commerce aspect. And like even with regards to like what Anselm is talking about the app he's talking about is a nice really community, in terms of being able to have all these services together and being able to pay for them. But there's also the other aspect that we face now where we use certain social media platforms. So let's say an example is Instagram, and Instagram gives you an option to be able to pay for something, or whether it's from a website or somewhere else. even like right here in St. Lucia, let's say I meet with a client, I carry out the work for them. There isn't that digital wallet per se, so that person can just instantly pay me. Now, there's PayPal, but PayPal has been really problematic for myself because only some banks accept it, only some banks work with it. Then there's also an issue sometimes with the amount of time it takes to get your money from PayPal.
27 to 28 days.
Yeah. So that for a small business, you know, yeah, sometimes you can work with it, but you know, sometimes, you know, it proves quite difficult. So there is that gap that is lacking with regards to e-commerce, so that we could just instantly, whether it's a Cash App style, whether it's that digital wallet where, you know, somebody from our phones, we can just transfer the money. And also to be able to integrate with the platforms that we are already using, right? Then that would be perfect. I see somebody mention Penny Pinch. I am a member of Penny Pinch. Our company is also part of Penny Pinch. There's also another one, Squeeze Cash. But again, there have been challenges that both of them have faced. And I'm sure Martin from Penny Pinch, you guys could always talk to him and he could tell you the challenges that he's faced, but he's getting the assistance to help him through. Squeeze Cash with the same type of situation. So it is really lacking in St. Lucia, and I'm sure in the wider region. And it's something that I see the ECCB is putting a test project out. So we're waiting to see what's gonna happen. But that's been my biggest challenge.
Well, then just a quick response to James. I'd like to tell him, you know, confidence that, you know, get an app, you register as a service provider, and you can get paid on the app to your local bank account, James.
So will it integrate with Instagram?
So integration as directly from Instagram. We can probably create a link to your account, get it, and accept the money there. Yeah. Or we just create a pathway that allows you to get into your payment link. But we're hoping to work with providers like yourself and see what can happen. But we're committed to it. Okay. That's a
follow-up question that Mr. Mathurin. Would that be something that stays in St. Lucia, or are you looking to cover a wider space?
No entrepreneur wants to stay in the local market. You want to establish at home first, because primarily the objective was to help St. Lucians become economically empowered. So we want to make sure we benefit from it first before we go to Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, because ultimately it's just a marketplace that creates service providers and customers, and we're just in the middle to make sure it's trusted and delivers a service that the providers promise. Okay.
Denise?
So it was your turn to answer the question. I know the two of us went.
Thanks. Thank you. So I would say that we don't have that challenge in the Virgin Islands, only because I do use PayPal and we don't have the 27 to 20-day waiting period. So that's normally the way that we see small businesses make money is through PayPal. For us, honestly, we're jealous because we can't utilize Cash App. And, you know, Cash App is instant cash to your account. Whereas for us in the territory, our banks don't, they're not working with Cash App right now. So we're looking at PayPal like, oh, this is taking, 1 to 3 business days, not knowing, out there in the world, it's taking you guys 27 to 28. So I feel a little blessed right now. So yeah, we don't necessarily have that particular challenge. For us, it's really, I think, what you've already talked about, getting people to become comfortable. So of course, the younger generation are sort of encouraging the older generation to, just PayPal them or just pay them digitally. And they're like, oh, but I literally have like people say still to this day, I want to mail you a check. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, I get it. They're comfortable with it. But at that point, I mean, I've gone as far to be like, okay, get me your child, get me your younger, so because we need to have that education piece right now. Like we have to bring you up to the 21st century. It's just not going to work for my business or from the agency itself. As we work with businesses, like you said, the education piece is crucial, and it's going to be a process, but we need to utilize the younger generations to assist those that are still having challenges with meeting that. And I think that's also why when we look at the systems in place, whether it be financial institutions, and the list goes on between government and private, we have a lot of folks that just haven't received the push to bring the rest of their constituents or the area to a place that is actually convenient versus putting us a step behind from actually having successful businesses.
Thank you. And I do want to apologize that I did go off for a little bit. It's just out of technical error. So we're back to question number 3. And since you answered that question last, I'll send that question to you. What do you think about a general business incubator and accelerator program? Given today's economic situation, how does it fit for your sector, your country? And how do you think a virtual incubator would be useful to assist your country? That's for you, Ms. Petersen.
Thank you. I think it is absolutely valuable. I think we sort of touched on already, the education piece, the accessibility piece, the convenience, and in reality, also just that space for encouragement. I think a lot of people, they've lost hope and they need that boost. They need that inspiration, and having an accelerator, having a business incubator that's virtual brings it to their home. So whether it's, on their smartphone or it's on their computers, and it's allowing them to actually also fit it into their time. Because in a lot of situations, I know specifically with the Virgin Islands, when you talk about, I saw somebody asked in the chat, how do you start a business? Well, in the Virgin Islands, you got to go through 4 to 5 different agencies or checks before you can get that last call from Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs that then tells you, okay, police department said you're good, the fire department said you're good, the lieutenant governor's office has said that you're in good standing. Like you have to go through all these steps, and then finally at the end of it, you get to the person who's actually the agency that's going to, print out or email you your license, and it can be very exhausting. I mean, for myself, it took me roughly 6 months to get a business license here in the territory. I mean, my business license in the States took 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I was like, yeah, you can throw a party. I mean, and I know it's not an isolation. I know, yes, my experience may even be a little bit more extreme because of the type of business that I was creating. But I don't think for any business, it should take an individual who is normally, still working a full-time job, who are normally, especially in these cases, women. I mean, let's be honest, the majority of entrepreneurs that have been started across at least the United States and the Virgin Islands has been women-owned businesses. And as a woman-owned business, oftentimes that means we have a family that we're also taking care of. We have a household. And so bringing that convenience to the process of starting a business, and with individuals that have a business, giving them the tools at their fingertips makes it so much more viable, or an opportunity for them to be more successful. Because though women have so many businesses, you also find that we're not the millionaires in the group. We're not the billionaires in the group. We're not the companies that are hiring 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 employees. We tend to have smaller businesses. So I think having the accelerator, having the incubator accessible for business owners, for startups, is only going to do the economy justice.
All right, so that follow-up question to the rest of you. I know you said 6 months it takes to get a business license, correct? Yeah, so
now TLCA isn't going to say that. They're going to tell you 2 weeks, just so you know.
Okay. So to James, how long did you take to get a business license in St. Lucia? Yeah, Mike.
turn it off.
Yeah.
I done it through, I mean, this was 2014, 2015.
Right.
I did it through SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, and they are so helpful. And I saw somebody actually asking a while ago in the questions that, like, how do you start a small business? But I don't know, I think that question's gone. But that SBDC is such a helpful unit in terms of resources, with getting your business registered. And I mean, I can't remember like an exact time period, but I mean, it wasn't that long. I mean, I'd probably say within a week, you know, I was able to get, after I done the name search, get it registered and so on. They take care of a certain amount of the fees. And all of our photographers, we've recommended that as well, to go through them, get yourself an officer, and they're so helpful. So I think that's where this incubator really comes in handy, to really, you know, bring these resources together, because there's a lot of people who don't know that they have to go down to the government buildings in town or what floor and all of this. It makes it a centralized hub for anybody, whatever your idea, if you need your business plan or whatever. It, like, I can see where eventually this hub, how it can be really utilized for persons like that who just have an idea and don't know what to do or where to go. All of these minds, whether it's from the SBDC or Invest St. Lucia, from Boost, the mentors, can really help persons to take their idea and turn it into something.
All right. So before we move forward to the next question, I'm going to invite someone. Okay. How long did you take to register business, correct?
A few.
A few. So how long did it take for each one to register? After your answer, we'll have some special guests come in. So just want to let you know that.
And anywhere from, I would say easily 6 weeks. And that is dependent on what type of registration you're doing, a business name or incorporation. I will say, and I don't want to put my lawyers out of business. My guys at Brickstone, they know I love them. But CEDU and the SBDC, which was a significant improvement in the commercial landscape for entrepreneurs in St. Lucia, they wanted to take it one step further, following the Canadian model. There's a concession that was put in. Typical incorporation costs something like $4,000 to $5,000, and you get it for free at the SBDC, what is formerly known as CEDU, only paying taxes of $868. I mean, that changed the game. However, and I dare say that I am probably the happiest person on this call, because I've waited for this accelerator for so long. About 3 years ago, I wrote a proposal to the government, you know, volunteering people, volunteering time to do exactly that. And why this is important is because after you've gone through the hurdles, first of all, you have to have a viable idea. Okay, after you've done that, then you go have the courage to go and pay money to register and incorporate a business. You'll have to loan to your own devices. And that's where the accelerator and the incubator comes in, because it then takes you through the key critical steps in forming the business, as in taxes, accounting, cash management, customer service, data collection, customer fulfillment process. And that is the real value, because then it gives your business a better chance of success. Some people are naturals at it, while others, you know, need that structure. And for me, you know, at a time now where it's sexy, it's a fad to have those incubators, I don't care if we're late to it. I'm just happy that we now have it, because I dare say that from this accelerator, I'm predicting that we're going to have people who will come up, who will emerge to solve some of the biggest challenges that we have locally. We'll create employment for a lot of people. My first stint at Cable & Wireless from 1999 to 2015, sorry. And I spent the next 2 years going through all sorts of incubators, Italian, British, US, and believe it or not, in some of those sessions, I met other solutions, guys in Choiseul, guys from Labrie who on in the bedroom with a little broken up computer, and they were in there as well. I said, but these people are in St. Lucia? So there are a lot of people with great ideas with a computer or phone at their homes right now. But by having a physical space with tutoring and mentorship and guidance, with the possibility of getting a potential investor at the end. I mean, that to me is one of the greatest advancements we've had in commerce in St. Lucia, and I support it 100%. I congratulate Invest St. Lucia, Headley, Dinesh, and the team. And yeah, let's go, because people will be employed and solutions will be created. We'll create an industry and new businesses. 100% guaranteed. I'm confident of that.
All right, thank you. We're just going to wait for a special guest. Oh, he's here. Perfect. So I just want to welcome David Ponraj. Is it Ponraj, correct?
That's correct.
So, yes. So David Ponraj, I just want to explain your background before you start speaking. So you're here to explain the Virtual Incubator and Accelerator Program. David is the CEO of Startup Space, which is powered Boost. He's moved to the United States to pursue, he was born in India, moved to the United States to pursue an international business degree at St. Petersburg College in Florida, was the VP of Global Innovation at Nielsen Media, and later on came up with the idea of the business that would start Startup Space. It's an idea that came into play in May 2018. Just correct me if I'm wrong, May 2018.
You're spot on so far.
Okay, perfect. So please tell us more about the Virtual Incubator and Startup Space.
Yep, absolutely. First, thank you, Dinesh, and nice to see you there, Shanell. Nice to see familiar faces. So yeah, thank you for this opportunity, and great to see all of you on the call today. This incubator idea, virtual incubator idea, came about from my own pain point in my previous business, where I found it really hard to find access to resources. And as one of the gentlemen on the call pointed out, that you need a village, you need your tribe, you need the support, because starting a business can be very hard. And so how do you do it in a world where we're all, we have so many things to focus on? Before COVID, I had to explain to people, although not to Shanell, she got the idea pre-COVID. We were at a conference. The IEDC conference is actually happening this week, last year. And but post-COVID, I think it's kind of now, pretty obvious that you need this virtual community, because that's our life. Our lives are all virtual, and we have this digital presence along with our physical presence. And so this virtual community allows you to come together at any given point in time, right? Like if you're a single parent and you're putting your kid to bed at night, I mean, you're not going to be able to go to that bar or to that meetup and be able to connect with whatever social gathering there is. You might be working alone at midnight. How do you connect? Or, you are in the middle of a big challenge and you want to have your community support you. You're not going to be able to simply call them all into a room. You go into the virtual community and present your problem and be able to get them all to rally around you and say, I can help you. We have seen this happen real time in our platform. There was somebody in one of our communities in Denver, in the US, who actually went and posted, I'm having a big mental breakdown. I'm struggling. I'm lonely. And how do you all cope with it? And then about 30 people jumped in to say, I would go for a run, or I listen to this music, or I read this book, or I meditate. It's nice to know that there is a community that can rally around you and support you and help you through your business. Of course, there is the other side where you can connect and find resources, funding, developers, or an accountant who can help you with different aspects of your business, right? You have all of those support services that have a virtual component, or even if you want to learn about how to start a business. But I built this because I had failed in a previous business by not being able to get help, and I wanted to change that story. So I said, I'm going to build a platform that helps people connect to resources in their community. And it's amazing to see St. Lucia and the Boost community come online and now offer this to the St. Lucia small business and entrepreneurship community.
Thank you very much, David. And we really appreciate all your help that you've given us so far. Of course, it's going to go far for a lot of our small businesses here in St. Lucia. So I'm going to actually put you back into the attendees list, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
James, can you hear us right now? James?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know why I was not hearing
Okay,
David.
no problem.
That's
So there he goes. And so the final question I want to ask before we go to the question and answer panel is there a need right now given all that's happened in 2020, for more collective collaboration in terms of business coaching, mentorship, business partnerships, and business relations? So do we need a more need? Is it more of a need now post-COVID, or is it always a need? And then we'll start with you, James.
So there has always been a need, I would say, but even more so now, because it's not, I won't even say like it's limited to young entrepreneurs anymore. Persons who would have been entrepreneurs, even like Anselm, you know, may have realized may have realized like with their business now, they need more. And at the end of the day, sometimes you can't do everything yourself. And having an incubator hub like this, where you can pull resources, you can pull expertise, and not have to do everything yourself, that networking, that connection is vital. And I find it's even more vital right now based on what has happened. With the uncertainty of what's going to happen. I mean, today, the amount of news we've heard about these COVID cases, everybody's nervous. Like, everybody's afraid of like another lockdown, another shutdown. We've seen it in some of the other islands close by, what's happened. Like, let's say, for instance, Bahamas, who they opened, and now look at that, they've had to shut down. So in a situation like that, you can't just be content with continuing your business how it was. You have to find new avenues, and sometimes we need help and we need expertise. And I mean, just looking at the Startup Space app, I think I saw it was about 234 members so far. I mean, that's just after being launched for about a week or 2 weeks. It's great,
Right.
but we can see the potential of it, of being able to connect so many different resources, not just maybe technology, but agriculture, sustainability, the blue economy, whatever it may be. There's so many different types of avenues persons can tap into to this hub. So I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
Okay, we'll go to Mr. Mathurin, and then we'll finish up with Ms. Petersen.
And then I just like James, I think that there's always been a need for the collaboration, the support, and the mentorship. However, in St. Lucia and other small societies, there is an aversion, a reservation for that, because people believe when I share my idea or share my challenges, I'm exposing my business, and I'm making it ripe for a takeover. And that may be a fact. However, you know, you also have to look at what can you gain. You might not need to open up to everybody, but you know, now more than ever, I believe that there's an economic, there's like almost like the bottom of the pan, and almost like an economic tsunami. I was thinking about that today and yesterday, and I've been thinking about all of those people who are or were in the hospitality industry, all of those people who were in industries that required physical contact for exchange of cash or goods for their survival. We have more than 70,000 NIC benefits claims, and that's only for people who register on NIC. A lot of businesses are not registered on NIC. So we are in crisis times. There are a lot of people suffering silently, as I say, and the support is needed. So by having the accelerator, proactively offering assistance, proactively giving that support, proactively making resources available, I'm hoping and encouraging people to take advantage of it. If they require some confidentiality of the business idea, I think that can be accommodated. But by all means, I think we're stronger together. And I'm not just saying that as a cliche. I genuinely believe that.
I was coming to that question right away. So do you think there should be some sort of confidentiality with idea sharing? Because that's something
Absolutely.
That's been a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there should be an NDA. However, as the gentleman who said before, you know, when you have a community and the incubator kind of startup environment, I guess as the moderator, as the owner of the incubator, you now need to determine where there might be potential conflict, where there might be potential opportunities for collaboration, vertical integration. And if you see two competing ideas or businesses, perhaps there should be disclosure up front. And you may choose one, or if both parties agree, but that needs to be upfront. But I think we're missing an opportunity if because somebody has a similar idea as us to stay out by not showing up.
Okay, I'm going to pass that question straight on to you, Ms. Petersen. Given your sector, because your sector is a little different from us, I think do you still follow U.S. laws, right? Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So is that something different? Is ideas able to be protected in your society?
You know, I still have to agree with the gentleman, because I feel like at the end of the day, when you have an idea and it's great, I mean, some people, it's hard. I feel like it's hard to say, only because when I think about, starting a business in general, or, I have a particular idea, I guess I'm always at the place of no one will do it like me. And I think business owners and people that are starting businesses need to have a similar mentality. It's kind of like how we have a song that is often re-sang by 5 different artists, and yet there's still individuals out there that only listen to I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston, or there are individuals that I only listen to I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton. So I feel that way when it comes to business ideas, is that as much as we think that, if somebody takes our idea, that we're losing out somehow, but the fact that we are not only in a time where we are, being encouraged to reach out to other people and to collaborate with other businesses, but I think we also need to realize that with everything becoming virtual, or many things becoming virtual and digital, that also means that our audience has expanded. And that's kind of how, we encourage our clients. And even with my business, I think of, before I was exclusively, offering services in the Virgin Islands. But now, because of everything going online, because of, the comfortability of watching recordings and learning about courses through pre-recorded things, now I can offer my services anywhere in the world. And I think that that's the part that's missing when we don't collaborate, because my reach can be only so far. But when you bring in another individual, now we've expanded both of our reaches. And so I think that's why when we talk about collaboration, we talk about partnership, even with that risk of this may be stolen, or they may take my idea and run with it, the potential that you can gain just
For sure
absolutely outweighs that.
I will say that's an optimistic view that you choose to hold, that we choose to hold, because some people will tell us that we're not being realistic, and there's intellectual property theft every single second of the day happening. But as I said, there's a role for the accelerator to play in how they manage and guard and protect each business. Sorry, James.
Yeah, go ahead, James. You were saying something?
No, actually, I thought you were. Go ahead, Dennis. Sorry.
Okay. So we just have a little technical issues, but James is back. So just want to thank everyone that's been on this panel. We're going to start to open up some questions. We have one question that we haven't answered yet. And it's how long does it take to open a business bank account on average? I'm going to start with St. Lucia and go with James first to answer that question. How long does it take to open a business account on average? Can you hear us? Oh, you can't hear. Okay. So we'll go to Mr. Mathurin and then we'll figure out.
I can only hear Anselm right now.
James, how long do you think, from your experience, it takes to open a business account? We can hear you.
Oh, to open a business account?
Sure.
Again, I think you touched on that earlier, Anselm, that well, with regard to the e-commerce side, like, it's such a long process. I know when we started up, I mean, it's not a problem now that we've been established, but I know when we started up, right? Like the banks told us that we couldn't open a business account if we haven't been open for 2 years. That was like in 2015, right? Maybe it was the 2 banks that we went to. So, I mean, for now, if you have your paperwork and sometimes your business plan and so on, like the banks now, I mean, it shouldn't take you more than a week at all.
I'd say
Same question for you. Yep.
Average 3 weeks and 3 weeks of incessant calling. That's what James means. It means you're calling every day. Might be walking every day and bringing the forms every day, because I know there's triplicate is, I always say 6 times. Septicate, whatever that is, you have forms maybe 6 times.
It's sad, but it's sometimes who you know as well. Sometimes you have to be on them.
Yeah, but I mean, different banks have different standards, and it depends on the people that you work with. You can have somebody who's very proactive, and every time I do this, and maybe that's just some advice, is that you try to share your what you're doing with the person who's supposed to be helping you. Tell them the importance of why you need this registration, whether it's because you took a loan and the loan is due, first payment is next month, and if you don't have an account, you cannot accept payments. Now I know, again, that's optimistic, because you assume that the person will say, you know what, I really want to help this business person, start operations, and might go beyond. You get answers like, okay, well, you forgot one word on the form. The person who's supposed to put the form is not here. Is the next branch, or I can't find the form. So there's so many things that can happen, and the advice really here is, if you're an entrepreneur, that's just going to be another hurdle that you have to climb over. You keep the end goal in mind. You smile. You be nice to the people who serve you, and you just try to understand the process. Obviously, I had an issue where it was only done at one particular branch, and it's a branch further away from me. Because the registration, it couldn't happen at the bank closest to me. So I took my 6 times forms times 4, 5. I brought it down, and I call every day. And a little trick: if the extension is 6071, and then no answer, try 6072 or 6069 or call the phones around. You might get lucky, but the message is that you have to be consistent. You have to be determined. You can't be frustrated. And try to share the importance of what you do with the people that you interact with. But it can take.
That's why we see in the chat. Yeah, the chat. He's saying it's still unreasonable, but we understand. Those are the exact problems that Keegan was going through. So I hope that these answers help him. I'm just going to see what happens in the U.S. Virgin Islands, because it's almost like a sister island to us too. Is that the same issue down there?
Yes, it is. I think Brian said it right in the chat. The answer is too long. and that's just the reality. I think, and then someone else mentioned already, the level of persistence that's required for small businesses to go through these processes, it's almost unreasonable from my perspective, and I think that shouldn't be our reality. It really shouldn't. Like, we shouldn't be so disadvantaged because of systems in place. And you always have to think, like, who is not aware that these exist, or how is it that they've not been resolved? And that's why I think having these conversations, having these discussions, having the incubator, the accelerator virtually, can not only prepare business owners for those frustrations, but then also, I think just speaking about it more vocally, verbally, out loud, I think people will at some point decide, like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should allow all the branches to process this one piece, because it's an intricate part to actually starting the business. But we have the same challenges here in the territory. We have to call consistently who that can get you closer to your end goal, that sort of thing. So it's definitely a challenge here as well. And you have to maintain that optimism. You really do. And reality, like, when you look at any small business, that have a license, that have a bank account, I mean, they should just throw themselves a party because they have succeeded beyond so many people that came before them, really.
But I think it's important. It's important to note, guys, not just for us on the panel, but also people listening. It's almost like you have no defense to the statement. The reason why it takes so long is for legislation, protection, your own security, the bank's policies, the Banking Act. So when you get those reasons, you can't really argue with that because they might be right because of the new FATCA laws, money laundering, source of funds declaration. So all of these are legitimate guardrails that are put in place to pick up any illegal process, and they still don't necessarily pick up any. However, for the e-commerce account, you know, it was very frustrating at times, and I would ask them, do we have more thieves and fraud than America? Do we have more thieves and fraud than Canada? You know, but the answer that I get is that there's different legislation. There's legislation that protects the bank better, whether it's in pursuing the people who break the law, and so you also have to understand where they're coming from and just try to meet somewhere in the middle. But it's persistence.
Well, Heather's right, Anselm. I've had this issue because I remember it was a mixer or something, and there was a few persons there, and you know, a few of us were talking about that, saying that why is it so hard for the small businesses? And they started to talk about the risk and so on and so forth. And my question after that was, where are the case studies to show that small businesses in the Caribbean, even in St. Lucia, let's not even take the Caribbean, in St. Lucia, right, are more of a risk than the large corporations. So I could understand if you're taking case studies from America and so on and so forth, but all we want to see is where's the studies that have been done? Where are those statistics that show that a young entrepreneur or any entrepreneur, they are quicker to default on their loan or their payments or their account compared to a corporation that is borrowing millions of dollars or they're in an overdraft. That's what we want to see, you know.
All right. Not too sure if James can hear me. Can you hear me, James? No?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Perfect. I just set it up. So this topic is such a topic that we can go on for another hour. Unfortunately, we don't have that time right now, but it is something that you brought up, and I think BoostX can have a panel, maybe a banker on the panel, and to explain what's going on for small businesses and creating accounts. That's a great idea for the next panel. But before we go to end this panel, I would like to thank all our panelists. I know your time is so valuable. I hope that you gave some great information to a lot of our small businesses, and I hope they took that information and, you know, create something new, create something inspiring for them. So great insights, everyone, great insights. Thank you for everyone for being here. Just in case to let you know that we do this once a month. So BoostX is once a month. We'll have a different panel next time, but hopefully some of these guys can come back for a further panel down the year or maybe next year. Maybe 2021 is a better year for us. And it starts off to be good for small businesses. So just a few reminders, you can follow us at Boost. So that's Boost, STLUCIA, BOOST, STLUCIA on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. So you can follow us there. Visit the website Boost, BOOST, Saint, SAINT, where you can register and go into startup space and start, you know, collaborating with other businesses. Even if you just have an idea, you don't have to have a business. If you can have an idea or you want to learn more about entrepreneurship, there's resources there for you. Final words from the panelists. We'll start with you, Ms. Petersen.
Oh.
Ladies first.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody who is listening, watching. I want to thank Boost St. Lucia for giving me this opportunity, giving the Virgin Islands this opportunity to collaborate and partner. Because as we already said, you know, by even just bringing in me, now Virgin Islanders have the accessibility to view this, to learn about the same challenges and successes that we're experiencing as, you know, individuals in the Caribbean. And I would encourage all small business owners and startups that are listening to really get out of your silos and connect with your community. It is so easy to, get trapped in your house or your business doing your own little thing, but know that there's so much to gain by reaching out, by connecting, by networking, and BoostX is absolutely the place to do it because they're bringing everybody that you think you need, you may not even know you need, in one place. So thank you again.
Thank you for the kind words as well. We'll go with James next. James, if you can hear me.
Denise, I can't hear you again.
Okay, but
Okay. I just want to take the time to tell persons download the app. Download the app because we've talked a lot about problems and different issues and so on and so forth. But let's talk now about solving them. The first step, we need to go and download the app. All right. So as Denise mentioned, the Boost pages on social media, it will direct you to that app called Startup Space, and let's connect. So this isn't the end of the discussion. Let's connect. It has a really nice type of social aspect as well, so you can still communicate within the community hubs. So again, download the app. Let's start. Let's not just be about all the talk, and then as soon as the webinar is done, that's it. Let's take action. And let's help each other out. Download the app.
Mr. Mathurin, I'd like to give you the final word because I know you have something to say.
Well, I want to thank the attendees. I see some names that I recognize. Some of them actually my mentors and people I have a lot of respect for. I'm encouraged that that Boost is not the webinar. The webinar is a tool for this whole movement. I'm excited about the first cadre, first tranche of participants, maybe for the first demo day. I want to encourage Invest in Lucia to reach out to local facilitators. When I say local, I mean national facilitators, persons from St. Lucia who have international experience, work for Fortune 500 companies. A couple of them on this in the attendee list. But also use the resources that we have here. This is an awesome opportunity. And I know that there's nothing for free, but I assure you, there are professionals who might be willing to volunteer some of the time to the first class of future classes, whether it's an hour. So obviously some have to be paid as well. But I want to encourage Invest in Lucia. I want to say congratulations with taking the first step. Thank my fellow panelists for coming. I think we can do this. I'm excited. I think St. Lucia's future in entrepreneurship looks bright. Remember, go to getit.lc, beta testing, download the app, send questions. It's a platform that connects service providers and users for economic empowerment.
Thank you. I just want to, that point that you made for a Fortune 500 company. Next one, we do have someone from a Fortune 500 company. So the next BoostX is featuring someone from a Fortune 500 company.
Okay,
St. Lucian, actually. So we have a lot of
there's one in the chat right now.
Nothing wrong with the USVI, but I mean, we're really proud of our St. Lucians, as you can see right there. Always proud of
Tell him you're St. Lucian, Petersen. Tell him you're St. Lucian. Tell him.
I'm St. Lucian. I'm born St. Lucian. Been here all my life. So we're glad that we're going to have a St. Lucian from a Fortune 500 company on the next BoostX. But again, once again, thank you for everyone that came. There's quite a few people. We will be starting a mentorship program, so keep in touch onto our platforms, our social media. It's very active, so keep in touch there. So Ms. Petersen, we'd like to thank you. We hope that you can, when COVID calms down, that you can come to St. Lucia and visit. And we hope that we come to your Virgin Islands when, again, COVID calms down and visit you as well. Mr. Mathurin, it's always a pleasure. We've known each other for, 20 years? I know you very well. So that long. Thank you for coming. And James, we've known each other for a while too as well. And really appreciate all that you're doing for the young entrepreneurs in St. Lucia.
You too, bro. You too. Keep it up. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone.
Thanks.